Well, I'm Pops, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the Batman animated series. This is episode 19, Fear of Victory. That's right, the return of Scarecrow. This was a really fun episode because of the way it introduces Robin, Dick Grayson's character, the way it kind of expands what Scarecrow will do to continue being who Scarecrow is. I thought that was actually a very interesting element that's not really harped on. We get a great look inside Arkham. I think it was a little cliche and on the nose in some ways, but it was pretty cool. Great episode, a lot of fun. So the episode centers around this concept that we have sporting events and suddenly the superstars are behaving very strangely, right? And they're cowering in fear, even though that's not initially identified. And even the newscaster doesn't really get that. And Dick Grayson's roommate in college is the star football player who's going to go on to the pros. And they get a telegram. And then, of course, that character, Brian Rogers, is now seeing monsters, right? So Scarecrow is using the telegrams, using some sort of physical contact to infect these athletes, right? And that's what's going to basically happen. And the early elements of this, and you see Scarecrow in disguise and that kind of thing. But at first, Batman dismisses all of this, but it was when Robin, because they kind of like stumble across jewel thieves, and Robin is immediately paralyzed with fear. Like he's having a crazy, irrational fear of heights, and it's because the toxin that Scarecrow is using is triggered by adrenaline. It's triggered by that emotional response. It's exasperating the problems, and Robin is basically just can't move. And the thugs are throwing over like pieces of the brick at the top of the building and hitting Batman, going after Robin, these kinds of things. But which, by the way, they also do find a way to insert a great little gag. Batman swings away safely and crashes through a window, and he ends up in the apartment of some lady, and she's there in her curlers, and she's kind of cute. And she's like, "Oh my!" And he's like, gives her a little grin or whatever as he's heading out. And I thought that was just, you see, that's the element of the fun that we can't seem to have consistently in entertainment. It's not cheesy, cheeky Marvel jokes. It's not jokes at the expense of others. It's the situations that we can relate to and that we can see ourselves in, and the humor can just be really, really natural and normal, right? The thug, of course, is making jokes and whatever, and then you start to get to the actual investigation, and you do get this. And I really will say the show gets a lot of credit for this because this is an element that the movies just really haven't got done well. Like you get pieces of it, like in Batman 89, he's doing experiments about the Joker toxin. You have different elements of him being the detective, him experimenting. But here you see him look a cat in a cage, fear toxin. They put a mouse in. Of course, the mouse it seems like a giant monster. The cat is terrified, right? So now they know what they're looking at. And he visits Arkham. Now, this is fantastic, by the way. And this is one of the moments in this. I wish I should just get a clip, but I'm afraid it's going to get copyright flagged. One of my favorite elements of the comic books and the show is Batman is already in the room and he steps out of the shadow. He's completely like in the dark, in the black and the blue. You can't even make it just the cape. He's just a silhouette just stepping into the room. I couldn't stand that element in the Batman when he's just walking into the police station. He's just walking around into Penguin's club. Batman is a ninja. He is trained at a completely different level by the Ra's al Ghul folks to know how to do this, and it's just never tapped in. By the way, speaking of Ra's al Ghul, we still don't have him in the show yet. So when he walks through Arkham, you get all the villains, right? So you're getting a little Joker shot, playing cards, making a joke. I do with the plant, Two-Face, whatever. And then, of course, it's just really fun to see. And it really wasn't. It's not spoon-fed to you, which is, again, another reason why the writing is so good. Like, Scarecrow is rigging the games, betting on the game so he can make a lot of money so the money can fund his schemes. This is an element that's not really tapped in. It's like, how are these villains getting the cash they need for different things? Like, how did the Joker get the money he needed to build the giant clown robot? Like, So you don't always get backstory. So it is good to see some of those elements, right? And as this is all playing out, Scarecrow doing his monologuing as he's drugged one of the thugs. And when Gordon finds the thug and they're showing Batman, you sort of kind of get all this. And Robin is still trying to face his fears about, and Batman really isn't that encouraging. He's talking about, it'll wear off, just work through it, get control, right? Now, when we get to our climax, it's obviously at a sports again, right? This is Dick's roommate. And Dick is doing a little detective work on himself too, and he discovers the equipment room. And you see one of the helmets that's turned up, or it's not in the same position. It's turned up. It's not in the same position as the other. So that's the one that's been manipulated. So it doesn't take a rocket science to know what's happened. So when the game is unraveling and playing out, he's having a star game. He's phenomenal. So now Scarecrow is freaking out, right? And of course, Batman meets him in the rafters. A little scuffle. They're fighting over a little vial that Scarecrow is threatening to drop over the side, creating just absolute chaos and mayhem, which, by the way, I'm just shocked he just didn't do it. It's only for the contrivances of the show that they don't just do it. The evil Scarecrow would just do it. However, as the scuffle takes place, Robin does swing in, grabs the vial, overcomes his fear. Scarecrow is caught, right? And you have a little joke with Bruce and Dick at the end in the manner about, making a telegram joke. And I think it was a fine way to introduce Dick into the Batman animated series. We didn't have a lot of backstory. We didn't get his origin story. We didn't get a lot of that. He's here, right? He's at college, so he's not around right now, but he happened to be around for this situation that we can kind of move forward on how he could be around more often. That was a great way to do it. Like I said, I really enjoyed the Scarecrow's scheme to fund his chemicals and his evil plans and things like that. So it really seemed like it was a good way to kind of have that tied in. So I hope you're enjoying revisiting the Batman animated series. Obviously, I've talked about how much this show means to me, and also just the fact that I'm enjoying it. It's leaving me so happy and joyful. Like Kevin Conroy knocks it out of the park, of course. Just the visuals are so dynamic. Their use of color. It's just everything about the show is just like near perfection. And this is a really solid episode. I don't think it's anywhere near the top tier, but it's very, very solid. It's not really a filler episode, even though in some ways it's just kind of like a very strong standalone episode that doesn't, what it moves forward, I think, are very small things, incrementally small, but that's very important in the grand scheme of things. And again, we just don't get this in entertainment much these days. So anyway, that's my take on it. I hope you're enjoying Saturday morning cartoons. I am Pops. Thank you so much for watching.